Hey everyone, so this is the module on how to get whatever job you want, hopefully it will be that easy. So I'm going to be going through the process of applying for a job myself, and you can see my whole process of all of my thinking, how I do everything from start to end. So here I've found a vacancy that I'm interested in. It's a lecturer position. I have never been a lecturer. I've never done it. It's not experience that I have. Now, many of my students come to me and they're interested in a job and they say, but I've never quite done it. I don't have this experience. I don't have that experience. It's okay. Everybody needs to start somewhere. Now, the first thing that I do is, I've seen that it's a lecturer position. That's pretty cool. Never done that. It will look nice on my CV. The salary is pretty good as well. That's fine for me. I'm going to scroll down. So it's a full-time position. Now, this is the most important thing here. This is it. Key responsibilities and requirements. So this is like the cheat sheet. Sorry, I know that my video is in the way. I'm just going to make myself smaller. Alright, cool. Now, this is basically the answers to the exam. This is what they're looking for. They've said, hey, we need someone that can do this. Now, normally I tell my students, if you can do 60% of this stuff, then apply for the job. But I spoke to someone else who gives advice in careers and jobs and applying for jobs, and they said to me that they advise students, if they can do 20% of the stuff mentioned, then apply for the job. So if there's 80% you don't know in this, but you can do 20%, so basically if you can do one or two of these things, then that's enough to apply. The more of this you can do, the better. You might be thinking, now listen to me, because what I'm going to say here is important. You might say to yourself, I've kind of got that, but I don't really have that. You need to take your other jobs. So for example, maybe you've worked in a car showroom, and at least 1 year of teaching experience in an FE setting, that's further education setting. I need to make that fit into I need to talk about from my car salesman job, how I got that. You need to say how you got these things from your other job. Now, it might not fit perfectly. For example, like 1 year of teaching experience in a further education setting inside a car showroom job. What? Doesn't make sense. But you need to make it, you need to connect it and you need to sell it as best you can. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open a Word document. So all of this stuff, I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it into here. Copy, paste. Anyway, I went to the Apply Now button. Anyway, it took me to the college website, and this job description is a document. So I downloaded that, and here, this is like more stuff. So I need to be able to do teaching and assessment, curriculum development, okay, student support, great, okay. I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to paste this. This is my answer sheet. Main duties, okay, this is important. So this is the stuff here, this is my answer sheet. I think that this is the most important stuff. Now I'm going to pull open my CV. So I've had many jobs in my life, but I've had 3 jobs which are really related to this. Now maybe you have 0 jobs which are related to what you're applying for. Maybe none of the jobs that you've done are directly related to the thing that you're applying for. You need to make it related. You need to find a relation. You need to make a relation. You need to show how the stuff that they're looking for, so on this Word document here, all of this stuff, you need to show how you've done that in relationship to your job. Now, my CV is already made from a previous job that I applied for, so I need to make some changes to it, surely. So this job here, South Lanarkshire Council, Youth, Family, Community Learning, I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to put that up here. Now see for youth, this job, all of the things related to that job, I'm going to put it there. So not everything, like, okay, I'll put all of these in the South Lanarkshire job. What else will I put? Educated to high degree, equivalent specialist area, hold a CELT or TEFL, I don't need to put that in it. Ideally have Delta, at least 1 year of excellent interpersonal skills and ability to work independently, flexible and positive attitude. See this stuff? I'm going to put this in my bio. So I'm going to include a bio also. And that stuff's going to go in the bio. Okay everyone, this is what I want you to do. I have done 10 different jobs in my life, but 3 of them are really relevant to the job that I'm applying for. So whatever the most relevant jobs that you have done are, put them on your CV. There's going to be a section called bio, short for biography. In your biography, you'll mention that you've been in constant employment since graduating, unless you've got any career breaks that you want to talk about, but ideally we want to avoid that. Anyway, in my bio, I'm going to mention that I've done many jobs where I've accumulated relevant skills and experience, but from different sectors. For example, customer services, retail, and sales. But the 3 jobs that I'm going to talk about on my CV that are going to be listed and elaborated on will be 1, Learn English with Ray. That's my own company where I do English tuition. Number 2 will be the South Lanarkshire Council. And number 3 will be Arabic in 60 Steps, which is my friend's organisation, educational language company. So under the first job title, so put that job title on your Word document, and all of the relevant, like, duties and responsibilities, put it under the first job title. Then the second job title, for example, for me, South Lanarkshire Council, then find the responsibilities that you want and then put it under that section. And then you'll be left with some more and put them under the third section. Just as bullet points, we're going to format it later and make it look correct. But right now, we just want to make sure that we cover all of the important main duties and responsibilities within the jobs that we're doing. Also, in your bio section, you can also copy and paste some duties and responsibilities into your bio. So all of the duties and responsibilities that you have I'm recording audio. Yeah. So all of the duties and responsibilities that you've already taken from the application, divide those into your bio and all of the jobs that you'll be mentioning on your CV. And in the next episode, we're going to format it correctly. Hey everyone, so what I have done is I went through the vacancy, the listing, and I've taken out all of the bullet points and I've put them under my different jobs. So with English with Ray, where I'm the head tutor and CEO, these are the bullet points that I thought would apply to my English with Ray. While I worked with the South Lanarkshire Council, these are the bullet points I've highlighted that I think will apply to this position. And then here, for Arabic in 60 Steps, these are the bullet points from the vacancy that apply to this position. So these bullet points are from the vacancy. This is the stuff that it's telling you we want the person who we give the job to do this stuff. So we want to show them that we know how to do that stuff and we have experience doing that stuff in our previous jobs. Now, before ChatGPT, before AI, we would need to then take this and reword it ourselves. But come on, we're in the 21st century. We have AI, so we're going to use that to our advantage. And you can use the free version of ChatGPT to do this. So this prompt, which says, please enhance the text below for my CV, I've included my previous workplace and a few responsibilities. Could you put the bullet points into a more professional CV format keeping the entire description under 100 words. Include a main body of text with only 4 bullet points. So here, that is the prompt. And then what I'll do here is I will copy this. So I've copied that, and then I'm going to paste it here and search. Or not search, but go. Now here, this is what ChatGPT has produced, and this is what I would actually put in my CV. So, course designer at Arabic in 60 steps. Also, you would have the years or the dates that you did this job from. And then underneath, like, developed and delivered high quality course materials, contributing to learner achievement and satisfaction, collaborated with educators and industry professionals to ensure excellence in learning, actively engaged in ongoing professional development to stay current in teaching methods and industry trends. Then here it's got a few bullet points. Provided subject support to enhance retention and achievement for all learners. Collaborated with curriculum leaders and managers to ensure quality learning experiences. Contributed to learner induction and ongoing guidance to students. Maintained up-to-date skills through regular professional development and industry placements. Cool. So just make sure that whatever you put in your CV, you should understand what it means and you should be prepared to talk about it during the interview. Now, the last thing I just want to share with you is actually making a CV that looks nice. Some of you will be able to do it, some of you won't. There are some websites with free CV templates. So there are a couple of websites where you can get CV templates completely for free. Canva, okay, they do CV templates. I didn't know that. But there's a couple of websites here. You can look it up on ChatGPT or look it up online. What I recommend is using Upwork or Fiverr. And if you just go here and you type in like CV design, you can have people make like here. This person has 500 reviews. They're almost a 5-star, 4.9 stars, and it's £20. Here a bit cheaper, £16. Look at this person, £12, and it's they've got 4.9. If you look around, in fact, here's someone at £8, someone at £4. You know, so here, for example, she makes really nice looking CVs. In fact, she does, the basic one for £11. So anyway, that's it. So my recommendation is to collect all that information, and either if you want, make the CV yourself or hire someone. Hey everyone, so here I'm going to talk about how to not get detected by these AI checkers and testers and things. So we're going to be using a lot of AI as we make our CV and apply for the job, because it saves time and it allows us to produce high quality answers really quickly. Using AI is going to save you a lot of time, and I'm going to teach you every step of what you need to do throughout this course. However, there are some things about AI detection softwares that I just want to cover. So first, how common is it? Well, in universities, it's very common. There's a software called Turnitin, which has been used since I went to university. When I went to university many years ago, Turnitin was only used to check for plagiarism, but now Turnitin has an extra feature for checking for AI usage. Now, it's not perfect. I have a student who never uses AI. They have no idea how to use AI. They produced a piece of writing for their university and they uploaded it to Turnitin. And Turnitin said that they had like 30 or 40% usage of AI. So it's not a very accurate. It's not a very accurate technology, is what I want to say. Now, for our purposes of jobs, two potential softwares are GPT-0 and OpenAI Classifier. Employers may use these, but again, it has the same flaws as Turnitin. It's not completely accurate. To be honest with you, the best determiner if something if someone has used AI, is just to read it, because there are some common things that AI generated text does, and if you've got some experience with AI, you'll read it and you'll just know immediately that someone has used AI here. So I want to talk about how to avoid that. So the first thing you need to do is you need highly detailed prompts, and you'll see throughout this training, whenever I use ChatGPT, I use highly detailed prompts. If you just say, ChatGPT, make me this, then it will produce something which was very obviously produced by ChatGPT. But we want something better than that. So using well-detailed prompts is the first thing. Secondly, there are some key characteristics of AI-generated text, and here are some of them. So I'll read through them and I'll explain them a little. So having uniform sentence structure. AI-generated text often has consistent sentence length and sentence structure with fewer variations, whereas human authors normally have simple, compound, and complex sentences. Predictable word choice. AI models generate text based on word probabilities, leading to uniform style. AI often maintains a very formal tone, even when casual language may be more appropriate. Overusage of certain phrases. AI uses a lot of idioms sometimes, which... Oh, I just need to zoom out a little. Sorry. Which we need to be aware of. Where was I? Yeah. It tends to repeat common phrases based on its data set training. Logical flow and coherence. Hyper-coherent content. AI-generated text may be overly logical or structured without digressions. Missing intuition or nuance. AI often lacks the nuanced spontaneity found in human writing. Vocabulary distribution. There's an even use of vocabulary. AI writing might use a wide range of vocabulary with limited personal quirks. And AI will avoid using any idioms or regional slang or expressions. But regional slang and expressions and even certain phrases, we're not going to include this anyway as we're applying for the job. Stylistic consistency. AI generated text maintains a single writing style throughout. It lacks shifts in tone. Surface level content. Generalized information. So AI may cover broad or generic details without specific insights. Subtle errors. So AI errors may include factual inconsistencies or awkward word choice. And lastly, like mechanical tone. So AI generated text might lack personal stories or emotional tone. So that's basically it. Okay, I just want to talk about a couple extra things. So furthermore, what I'd like to... Oh, I see I'm still... Okay, hopefully you can see me. I'll just move back a little bit. Most of the things that were mentioned were not things that we're going to include in our CV or cover letter anyway. Furthermore, in your CV, it's mostly going to be bullet points, except from maybe a small biography. So it's not going to be very obvious to any AI detector if you've used AI in such, like, bullet pointed work, or maybe in your small biography. But ultimately, the main point I just want to give you is whatever you produce, you need to edit it. You can probably read it and tell that something just sounds a little too mechanical. So if it's not how you would naturally word something, I would recommend that you reword it to a way that's more natural for you. Although, to be honest with you, throughout this interview process for this job that I'm going to apply for, I used AI for everything and I didn't really edit it. I just used what ChatGPT produced for me because I was happy with it, and they didn't check, and I still got through to the interview. And you can do the same. A lot of these small independent companies are not going to check. A lot of these, unless it's a huge organization, it's quite unlikely they'll check. They'll just read it and see if they're satisfied with it. And then if they're not sure, they'll just call you for an interview and they can determine if you're a suitable candidate. So yeah, just be careful with your wording. Know what's in your CV and be mindful of the little warnings and tips that I've mentioned there. Hopefully that should help. Hey everyone, so now you need to write your cover letter. Now for the job that I'm applying for, the cover letter is not part of the CV. It's actually a totally separate upload on their website. But whether it's part of your CV or whether it's just a piece of text that you upload, this is what you're going to do. Now, on the right hand side here, so all of this is the vacancy. This is the job that I'm applying for. So maybe I probably didn't mention everything when I was doing my CV. I'm sure there's still many more things that I've not mentioned that are still quite important. So what I will do is I will copy and paste all of the things that I haven't already mentioned. Or maybe I'll even copy the things that I have already mentioned, but the things that I think are really important. And we'll copy it, we'll right click, and we'll paste it here. Yeah, here we go. Okay, I'm having a little technical problem with the copying and pasting. But we'll copy it onto a Word document. That's what you'll do. You'll make a Word document, and this is for your cover letter. So the first thing is you're collecting the information. Now the second thing that you're going to do is you're going to use this prompt with ChatGPT. So I've put blanks here because you'll need to edit this to make it appropriate for you. So I'm applying for a job as something. I need to write a cover letter for my CV. I have this many years experience, of this. My jobs include doing this position at this company. I have also been this position in this company, and currently I am doing this at this company. So you see, and then write me a personal bio and mention the experience below in my cover letter in a natural and professional way. So here's a couple of the things, but I'm going to take more from this. So I'm going to highlight the things that I think are important. I'm going to put it as bullet points here. And then when I'm done, I'm going to put that into ChatGPT and it'll make me my cover letter. Then the only thing you need to do is edit it for accuracies. So that's kind of all you really need to see for just now. So good luck in making your own cover letter and your own CV. I'm hoping I'm going to get a job interview, and then I can continue documenting this process to show you how I prepare for the interview. And then I'll actually, if it's an in-person interview, I don't know if I'll be able to record it, but if it's an online interview, I'll definitely screen record it and I'll use it for this course. So yeah, hope that was enjoyable and beneficial for you, and good luck. Okay, hello everyone. Hope you're doing okay. So got some good news. I got an offer for an interview with the college for the lecturing position. I just want to show you the email. Okay, my internet's a little slow. So I've been offered an interview for this day and time. It's going to be online via MS Teams, and it's for the lecturing position. So they've asked me to prepare a presentation, and it says, in many ESOL classes there is a mix of beginners who can read and write a little and literacy students who cannot. Explain what strategies you would use to manage such a class. So yeah, that's my 5-minute presentation topic. So I just started, so I literally got this email 7 hours ago. It was a while ago, but I was working all day and I'm just trying to start as soon as I can to really get ahead. Now, what I've done here is I've typed in that question into ChatGPT, and I've asked ChatGPT to give me a list of every possible strategy that an ESL teacher could employ and include a description for the following scenario. Then this is the scenario, like in many ESOL classes, there's beginner students and literacy students. Explain what strategies you would use. So ChatGPT has given me a couple of different instructions. It's given me differentiated instructions, pairing and grouping, use of visual aids, multi-sensory teaching, scaffolding instructions, that's a really good one, language experience approach, use of technology, task-based learning, Hey, what the heck are you doing? You okay? Sorry, my cats are fighting. So ChatGPT has given me like what, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, so what, 20, 21. Bloody hell, it's given me 25 different things. I cannot mention all of this in a 5-minute presentation, so I'm going to just read over the ones that I think are the most effective. They're the ones that I'm most comfortable talking about, and I'm going to make a little PowerPoint. So for this PowerPoint, the first thing I'm doing is I'm just like making a skeleton of it. Then I'm going to hire someone on Fiverr to make it much better. But just to give you an idea, so my title page is basically the topic: strategies to manage a class with beginners who can read and write a little, with literacies who cannot. Then the first thing I wanted to say is that one size does not fit all. Consider who is in the class. Familiarise yourself with pre-class placement tests and ILPs to understand the capabilities of each student, and use continuous summative assessment to keep track of learners' progress. I'll read these, I'll choose my 3 favourites, and I'll do 3 slides for it, and that's all. Then I'm going to send this to a guy on Fiverr to get it made. So you don't need to see me do that, but I'll show you once I'm finished, and I'll show you me choosing a guy on Fiverr. Okay, so we're recording again. So this website, Fiverr, is a website where you can hire freelancers, and I'm just going to look for someone who can design my PowerPoint presentation. Seller details. Let's have a look. So this first person, this is TMK. First slides look pretty nice. First slides actually look really nice. Hey there, I have a presentation that needs designed. I'll say $20. Many thanks. Okay, I'm going to copy this message and I'm going to send the exact same message to everyone else. Okay, cool. I'm going to send that to the other people, but yeah, I'll show you once I get something back. Hey everyone, so I got the presentation from Fiverr, but also I wanted to introduce you to this new AI tool. So one of my students showed me this. Now you'll remember in the last episode I actually made like a transcript of, or I made a PowerPoint that was just blank, and I gave that to the Fiverr artist, and I paid like £20 or £15 for it. Now one of my students said there's actually this AI tool which is totally free and you can use it. So yeah, I just wanted to share this with you. So I uploaded the presentation that I made here, and it made this, and you can even download it as a PowerPoint document. So managing mixed level English classes, and this was completely free, and it made this document. It literally took the document that I made and it just edited it like this. And so I could really just take this and, you know, present this instead. But I've already paid someone. To be honest, I think this is a really good tool. The one that I paid for, I like better. So I'll show you that, but just in case you ever need to make a presentation, you can use this. It's called Gamma. Gamma AI. So you can check that out. Anyway, check out my downloads. Okay, so this is what the Fiverr artist produced for me. Sorry, I think it's not cool. Okay, kind of like this, right? So I actually really like this one. I like the free one also. Thought the free one was really good as well. But and if I knew the free one existed, I probably wouldn't have made this. But yeah, just to show you, you've got some variation. You can use either or. Now, I got this maybe the day before yesterday. So I practiced when I had the blank PowerPoint. Since I got this, I've only practiced one time. So this is going to be, so just now it's Monday, the interview's on Friday, so I need to get really good at this presentation, and I also need to prepare for the interview questions that might come up. So that will be another episode, but for just now, let's try this. That was 3 minutes and 14 seconds. I don't know how strict they're going to be in the actual interview, so yeah, maybe a slightly over the 5 minutes, I think, maybe 5 minutes and 30 seconds, but that is my most up-to-date trial of that. That felt pretty good. Now, what I need to do is I need to watch my performance, this video I'm recording currently. I need to watch it and I need to criticize myself, and I need to, as I'm watching it, I'll have my pencil and I'll have my notepad and I'll write down some things that I didn't like and some things that I think could be better, and then I'll develop those things, inshallah. So when the day comes on Friday, hopefully I can do a better job. But yeah, I hope that was useful. Hope you enjoyed watching that. Take care. Okay, hello everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to make the perfect answers for the interview questions. So first, what interview questions should we be preparing for? Now, I'm preparing for a job as a lecturer in a college, but you could be applying for a job in IT or in business or in sales or in marketing. So I want to keep this as general as possible. So on the left side, I've got ChatGPT, and on the right side, I have the job description. So I have a PDF of the job description, and I don't know what you have. I don't know if you've just got the website link. You know, you might have a website link that has the key duties and responsibilities, or hopefully there's another document on the website or something they email to you which has all of the desired skills on it. So here on this job summary, you know, there's a summary of the job, there's the main duties, stuff related to curriculum development, quality standards, student support, continued professional development, relationships, and general responsibilities. So if you have the paid version of ChatGPT like I have, you just take the document. So this here is the document, and I'm going to drop it into ChatGPT. But don't worry, if you don't have the paid version, it's pretty much the same. All you need to do is copy and paste this text. So you would just highlight all of this. Yes, I'm having a problem doing it. But yeah, you would just, you know, right click, copy it, and then paste it into ChatGPT. And you would paste the entire thing. So anyway, now that this is in ChatGPT, I'm going to type in this prompt, and you'll do the same thing. Okay, just to save your time, I decided to fast forward me typing this and just show you what the prompt is. You can find a copy of this prompt in the description of this video. I'll include it there for you. This prompt, you'll need to edit it to make it more appropriate for whatever job you are. So in mine it says I'm preparing for a job as college lecturer. You just change it to whatever job you have. Now in the second section, it has my relevant jobs, like I've worked as an ESOL officer for the South Lanarkshire Council. I've worked for as the CEO of Learn English with Ray, and as a curriculum designer for Arabic in 60 Steps. So you just put in your relevant work experience when you are doing this section. So there it is. Now, here, this is what you'll get. The first question is generated is, can you tell us about your experience in curriculum development and how it relates to the position? Now here the sample answer. This sample answer highlights these skills: curriculum development and innovation. Those are things that they want you to have from the job description. So this is a sample answer which talks about my experience. It's a question which is likely to come up in the interview, and it's highlighting key skills as mentioned in the application. Now the last thing I just want to mention is, see these key skills like curriculum development and innovation, learner engagement and adaptive strategy, assessment design and feedback provision. Now, it can be a lot to memorize. So if your interview is online, for example, like my interview is online, you can get post-it notes and put it around your monitor with the key things that you want to mention, and make sure you include that in your answer. So just to go through the first answer, can you tell us about your experience in curriculum development and how it relates to the position? I have extensive experience in curriculum development, particularly for my time working as a curriculum designer for Workbook and 60 Steps. In this role, I was responsible for creating engaging and effective course materials, assessing learning outcomes, ensuring the curriculum met both the needs of the students and the industry standards. This is a really good answer. Now, in other courses, they might tell you to use the STAR method or something similar. But with this, it just makes life so much easier. It does most of the preparation for you. Now, the only thing you need to do is read these answers and memorize these answers and practice delivering them. Practice, practice, practice. I will be practicing my presentation every single day, and I'll be practicing these answers. And I'll be practicing them before I sleep, when I wake up, when I'm in the gym. I'll have a copy of it on my phone. I'm going to read these and I'm going to speak them again and again. Because now this is the key thing that I want to tell you here. When you give these answers, if it sounds like these answers are coming from a piece of paper and you're reading it and telling it, it doesn't sound sincere. When they ask you, why are you the person for this job? That answer needs to come from your heart. It cannot come from a piece of paper. You need to be speaking from the heart. And you can make it sound like you're speaking from the heart by doing lots and lots of preparation, lots and lots of practice. So study these answers, practice these answers, and deliver them again and again and again. And that's how you will deliver really strong answers. One point I just want to put particular focus on is, why should we hire you for the job? There will most likely be a question at the beginning of the interview where they will ask, why should we hire you for the job? Or why did you apply for this job? Or what strengths do you have that will allow you to do this job well? Or tell us about the experience you have and the qualities that will allow you to adapt to this position. They'll ask you the question something like that. I don't know what exactly the wording will be, but this is how you're going to answer it. You need to be very aware of the job description and what they're looking for from a key candidate. And you need to think about your job experience, all of the jobs that you've had, whether they're voluntary jobs, whether they're jobs working with your friends and family, whether it's proper career jobs, or whether it's self-employment. But you need to basically say how you have gathered all of the necessary skills and experience from your career history. So when they ask you then they say, tell me about yourself, you need to go through that list. You need to say, so I graduated in this year and immediately I went on to employment, working in my first position where I was involved in these kind of projects, doing these kind of tasks. And these are the kind of projects and tasks which they say they want you to do in the job description. Talk about what skills you developed and what you did. Preceding that, you then went on to your next job where you developed these skills and these experiences, and what what projects you worked on and how it helped you grow and develop as a person, what professional development that you did before going on to your latest job and what you're doing there. And by the time you're finished giving that answer, hopefully you've basically told them exactly why you're the perfect person for the job. And a good sign that you've done that well is they'll be smiling, they'll be nodding, and they'll say something like, wow, you've actually answered the next 4 questions, so that's really good. What should I ask you now? So that's a really good sign that you've answered that well. So those are just some tips for how to answer that first question, and I would just advise you to put particular focus on answering that one. If they ask you, why should we give you the job? Why do you think you're the right person for this job? That is a high pressure question where people freeze, and the first thing they'll say is, I think I would really like it. It would be a great opportunity for me. No, none of those are the right answer. This is how you will answer that question. First, you'll say, well, that's a really good question. And the reason that I've applied for this job is I have accumulated all of the necessary skills and experience through my professional portfolio that will allow me to adapt and fulfill the roles in this new position to a high level. And if you're to hire me, the adaptation period would be very short because I already have so many equivalent skills and experience. That's how you answer it. And then you'll go on to say, in my first job I did this, in my second job I did that. But that's a really good way to answer it, so they can think, oh wow, this is a good person for the job. So I'd recommend you memorize that answer and use that when they ask you. Hey everyone, so today I'm going to be speaking about the mindset. So what I'd like to talk about first is being completely unreactive. This is so important. You can call this the poker face. So during the job interview, a couple of things might happen. They might ask you a very straight question. For example, why should we hire you to do this job? Why should we give you this opportunity? Or what skills do you have that will allow you to do this well? And a lot of people, when they're asked in such a straight way why you should be given the job, they'll say, and their eyes will go left, right, up, down, and they'll say, and you can tell that they're panicking. It's really obvious that there's some panic in how they've been asked that. It almost feels like they've been attacked. That's the way it feels to be asked such a question. So before the interview even starts, you want to take some time just to start at just to sit at your computer and take some deep breaths and to try and calm yourself down and to feel as best you can. Yeah, feel good. Secondly, it's just an interview. It's just some questions. Nothing's going to hurt you. So whenever they ask you a question, don't feel obliged to rush. Don't feel like you need to quickly give the answer. Take your time. Because when you rush, your answer can sound nervous. And you might use lots of You don't want any of that either, because you want to sound like a professional. Professionals don't and panic. The professional is cool. And that's what you are. You're the person destined to get this job. This is the perfect job for you because you have the experience and the skills needed to do this well. And that's what you want to communicate. Now, the perfect person for this job is not going to panic, and neither are you, because you are the perfect person for this job. So the first tip I want to give you is be unreactive. So when they ask you a difficult question, don't show on your face that you're panicking. Keep it cool, looking into the camera or looking into the screen, or if it's in person, just looking at your interviewer. And to give yourself some time to think. Now, why do people say, I think the reason people say this stuff is because they're giving themselves time. It's a way that they're giving themselves time to try and think of an answer. Instead of buying time to think by umming and ahhing and sounding like an amateur, instead just take a pause and say, well, that's a really good question. And to answer it quite directly, I would need to say that. Now, you have bought yourself so much time and you've sounded so much more confident. So be unreactive, looking forward, not looking to the sides, not umming and ahhing. It's a really good idea to record yourself delivering these answers before the interview and watch how you give them, and you'll be able to tell how confident you are or not. The last thing I just want to talk about is the person who will get this job is not the person who wants it the most. It's not the person who needs it the most. It's the person who deserves it the most. The person who deserves it the most is the person that 1, has enthusiasm, 2, is positive to be around, 3, has excellent manners and behaviours and communication, and 4, has the necessary skills and experience to do the job well. And you're going to come into the interview with style and confidence. And that's how you're going to give your answers. And whenever you're asked a question, you'll be able to reference something from your career history and how you've done it well. And the more you study the job vacancy and the more you meditate and think about your career history, the better you'll be able to do this. So those are just a couple of tips for believing in yourself and having the mindset that you need to do well in this interview. So I hope that was helpful, and good luck. So first, huge thanks to you for coming and joining me today.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, so today, of course, we're going to be analysing my job interview footage. So I thought this would be a great way to get some feedback on it, not only from myself, but from, you know, someone like yourself who's been in the ESL space for a long time, and I'm sure you've got a lot of employability skills that you can talk about and you can offer to learners, which will be beneficial. So this job interview is part of a training that I've been making for a couple of months now, and I wanted to show every part of the job interview process, from finding a job to making a CV to filling out the job application to calling up the company after you've already submitted the application, and then the preparation for the interview and then the interview itself. So this is a job interview I did for a lecturing position in a college as an ESL teacher. For the record, I don't have any experience in like formal academic education. So I've never been a lecturer or like a formal teacher. I've done community learning and development, which is obviously different from formal education. So this interview is like completely outside of my comfort zone. And yeah, I kind of expect you to, like, you know, you can criticize me as hard as you want if you think these answers are terrible, and you know, hopefully there will be something in this which will be beneficial for the students.
Absolutely. I think this is the aim, is to look at the interview and then try to analyze it and see, kind of providing some constructive feedback on that. So
great. We'll go through. So there is a small presentation. It's like a 5-minute presentation that I deliver. We'll stop it after the presentation, and we'll stop it after every single question that I answer, and we'll just give some feedback on how someone else could answer that, or if you think that's a good answer, or just anything else that we can add to that at all. And if you want me to stop it at any time because you want to make like an on-the-spot commentary, you can just tell me to stop it and I'll just do that.
sounds good.
Great, so let's go ahead.
Hi Rayhan, can you hear us?
Hi there, yes, I can hear you.
Okay, that's great, and sorry to have kept you a couple of minutes, we're just finalising things. But if I can welcome you and introduce panel members first. So my name is and I am the curriculum manager for and I'm responsible for a number of classes at different levels, and particularly the youth programme.
So hi Rehan, lovely to meet you. Thank you for coming along this afternoon. My name's I'm the head of...
Something I just wanted to add to this. So this was like the beginning of the interview, and before joining the interview I was waiting in their room for probably like 5 minutes, and I was super nervous, right? So like prior to joining, like my heart was racing through my chest.
I think that's absolutely normal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of the process when you go for a job interview. You're kind of feeling anxious, and that, I think, is something quite natural.
Yeah, I think no matter how skilled you are, I think it's really normal to feel nervous. But do you have any advice that you can offer to the listeners for like handling pre-interview nerves?
I think one of the most important thing for me is just to take your time, take a really deep breath. It helps you a great deal.
Mm-hmm.
Normally before any job interview, sort of, I really like, I've seen you sort of got your glass of water, drink your glass of water, you know, and take a very deep breath. I think it's really important for you also just to be sort of, I believe in your capacity and your skills, and I think a job interview is a great opportunity for you to showcase your work, your skills, and the things that you can bring to the job. So go for it.
Yeah. Something else I wanted to mention was whenever we feel an emotion, right? So for example, if you feel angry, you know, you might clench your fists, or if you feel happy, you'll smile. There's always a bodily response to any emotion, any like extreme emotion, and I think in an interview it's extreme nervousness. And when people feel that extreme nervousness, you can actually see it on their face, the way they move their eyes and things. So, and also I think interviewers they're very intuitive of that. They can understand if someone's really nervous, and if like a job interview is a high pressure scenario, but if you want to communicate to that person that you're feeling confident, then you want to not show that, like have a poker face and try, even though inside you everything's moving at 100 miles per hour, even though, like, for example, some of the people here will be speaking English as a second language, even though you don't understand every single word, you don't want to show that on your face. You don't want to show any confusion on your face. The only thing you want to show on your face is that you're a professional.
I think that's absolutely key, as you said, which sort of adds to the other point that I wanted to mention, which is body language is really important.
Mm-hmm.
How you present yourself, how you come across in a job interview is really important, and a lot of people do focus on the point of, like, the first impression is really important. So I think the first few moments of a job interview, I think, are really your opportunity to give a good impression about yourself as a candidate, as a confident candidate. So totally sort of echo what you mentioned about body language. It's really important, and you try to sort of, you know, be in control and sort of not stress out. Because no matter how sort of confident you are, at the end of the day there will be some elements of stress somewhere, but you need to make sure that you are in control.
Yeah, you don't want to show them that you're you might be panicking, but you don't want to show them that you're panicking. It's kind of like, you want to imagine what the perfect candidate for this position would be like, what they'd look like, and what they'd talk like. And the perfect person for this job is not going to be panicking. They have plenty of experience doing similar things to this, and they've come in knowing that they're the correct person for the job, and that is going to emanate from the way that they speak, from the way that they carry themselves, from the way that they act. And, you know, even if you're not that person, you fake it till you make it, and at least you can look like that person and you can act like that person. And that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to, this guy has never been a lecturer before, but he's trying to look like he's a lecturer, and he's trying to act like he's one as well.
Let's see how you did.
Well, let's see. Maybe I'm talking a lot because I'm too scared for you to watch. I'm scared from your criticisms. Okay, let's go.
Sector 4. So that's the faculty that has the ESOL department within it. And I line manage the ESOL curriculum managers across all 3 campuses.
Great.
Right, and
Rehan, nice to meet you. Thanks for coming along today. I'm one of the people partners from the people team. Really look forward to hearing about your experience and stuff. So very best of luck with your interview today.
Thank you.
great. And Rehan, can you say a few words about yourself before we get into the thing?
Sure. So I guess my name's Rehan. I've been teaching English for the better part of the last decade. I've had the pleasure of working with a wide variety of learners in different contexts, whether it's been for business, academically, or community learning and development. So I have my hands in, several different fields of it. I've grown up here in the south side of Glasgow my whole life, and I'm excited to be here today and to get to meet you and to answer your questions.
Okay, great.
So they first asked me that, tell me a little bit about yourself, and they'd kind of spoken about themselves, but they didn't say too much, so I was a little bit apprehensive to give a long answer. So I don't know, it's just a very concise tell me about yourself, but what do you think of that?
I think that was a really good answer, because telling me about yourself is basically, you want to, in my view, you want to approach this. So first of all, introducing yourself, your name, perhaps where you're from, what is your background, that's really important. And just kind of give top line about what your qualifications are, what is your area of expertise, with sort of you're setting the scene for yourself later to sort of delve deeper into these different areas. So I think it was, in English we say it's short and sweet. Really. Short and sweet, yeah. That's it. You don't want to talk forever. At the same time, you don't want to give a very brief and short answer. I think it was a very modest answer.
Yeah. Once, not too long ago, a student contacted me and he wanted to get a job. I think it was like one of these air host or hostess jobs, and he came to the class with me and we did a mock interview. So the first question I asked him was, tell me about yourself, and he said, so this is my name and I have 3 brothers. Two of my brothers are married. One of my brothers isn't married. I'm not married. My eldest brother doesn't have any children, but the second one does. I also enjoy playing football sometimes.
I think this is all great information, but I think this is not in the right place.
Yeah.
Really. When they tell me about yourself, it's basically who you are, what are your expertise, what qualifications do you have, and essentially why you're interviewing for this position and what do you bring to this position.
Of course. In essence, there's really one question throughout the whole interview. They just want to know, why should I hire you? That's the thing that they want to, that's the question they want to satisfy. They want to understand why we should hire this person. And if you can't satisfy those conditions for why you're the correct person for the job, then you won't get it. What another problem I think students make is they go to job interviews and they really say that, this would be a great opportunity for me and I'm really excited about it. And I give this analogy. Imagine you're hiring a plumber because you have a problem with your drains. Imagine you hire you interview two plumbers, and the first plumber says, "This is really exciting. I'd really love this opportunity. I can learn. It can open up new doors for me." Or imagine that this, please give it to me. I'll try really hard. Or imagine the second plumber says, "I've done this plenty of times. I have plenty of experience doing jobs like this. If you hire me, this job will get resolved quickly and easily, and I'll satisfy all of your expectations of what you'd be looking for in a plumber."
Absolutely. It's no brainer that you're going to go straight into the second one, because they've demonstrated an understanding of the job description and they are quite confident about their skill set and they're offering you something valuable that you're looking for.
Also, I think one problem that candidates make when they apply for jobs is that interviewers don't have an opportunity. They actually have a problem. The problem is they don't have someone to do this job, and because they don't have someone to do that job, they've got a problem, and the hiring process is stressful, the training process is stressful, it's time consuming, it's resource consuming, and if they put that into the wrong person, it's like then they need to start all over again. So
I think that's a really good comment that you made, because as you mentioned, when you look at sort of recruitment, it is an incredibly, could be expensive process, and for a lot of companies this is an investment. They need to make sure that they are getting the right person. As you've mentioned earlier, you need to make sure that you're hiring the right person, because this would require a lot of investment in terms of the onboarding process, the training process itself, and for that person also to fit into the company, it will take a time, probably 3 up to 6 months. And this is a big investment. You need to make sure you've got the ideal candidate and the right person to carry out these tasks.
Yeah. People look at job vacancies and they say, this job vacancy, it really suits me and I really want it. But the person who wants it the most or needs it the most or it suits the most is not the person who gets it. It's the person who deserves it the most. And the person that deserves it the most is the person who understands what the duties and the responsibilities are, and they can relate that to their own employment history and show how they have the competencies to fit into this position well. The person who communicates that best, I think, is the person who's going to get the job.
I think without a doubt, I think one of the key elements, probably we'll delve into this later, but one of the most effective ways to help you sort of ace a job interview is to methodically and very carefully look at the job description, read it, break it down, understand it. What's more important is how does this relate to your own experience and how you can sort of fill the gap that they're looking for. It's really important. One of the things that I've seen throughout my work with lots of students and job seekers was the fact people would normally go and apply for any job, but just because they like the title, whatever, without really understanding the job descriptions or the terms of reference. They're really important for you to read and then for you to understand, and then you need to tailor everything there, because when you apply for a job, you've got an opportunity to go read the terms of reference, to read the job description, and then sort of tailor your CV, tailor your answers in a way that sort of aligns with what they're trying to achieve. And that's really important, because you don't want to be sort of, you know, completely different planets. You don't want to be worlds apart in terms of, you know, what they're looking for and what you are offering. There needs to be alignment there.
Definitely. I think you put that absolutely excellently. So yeah, let's just go forward into the next answer.
So the structure of the interview is going to be as follows. You'll start with a presentation on the mix of beginners and literacies.
Sure.
And then we have one ESOL related question from myself, one from. You'll then have time to ask any questions you want of us, which might of course be about the post. So can we, Rehan, kick off with your presentation on managing classes with beginners and literacies? Do you have a PowerPoint or similar?
Yeah, I can share my screen if that's all right.
That's great. Please share your screen and over to you. Go for it.
Okay. Let's see. Can everyone see my screen yet?
I think so. If your screen currently has 4 of us on it.
If I go into this tab, this Google tab.
Google tab, yeah.
Oh,
We're
okay,
seeing
so
what
it's
you're
changing.
seeing.
Okay, fantastic.
Great.
Okay, so I've prepared this little presentation. Okay, so well, first and foremost, thanks for having me and listening to this presentation regarding strategies to manage a class containing both beginner learners who can read and write a little, alongside literacy learners who cannot. So before I actually get into the specificity of any exact strategy which should be implemented, I think it's important to preface this by saying one size does not fit all classes. An English class can be as unique as the human fingerprint, but some important considerations to make before proceeding into any informed lesson planning is first to know who is in the class. Do they share a first language, for example? What barriers of entry could they potentially be facing regarding their language or their culture or their previous levels of education? Preceding that, it's really important for any tutor to be well aware of the pre-class placement tests as well as the individual learning plans, so that the tutor can understand what are the goals, the strengths and the weaknesses of the students that they are teaching. And then finally, we've got continuous formative assessment. So keeping track of how the students are doing as they progress through the learning materials. Are they progressing as expected or not? Because all of these things will help the tutor to understand the capabilities of their students so they can plan more effectively. So talking about the first strategy is differentiated instructions. This involves tailoring the lesson to meet the varying needs of the students, creating activities with different levels of difficulty or offer additional support to those who need it. So this might involve the beginners working on a reading comprehension or a writing activity, whereas the literacy students might focus on phonics, letter recognition, or perhaps tracing or using simple flashcards to familiarise themselves with basic vocabulary. Preceding this is pairing and grouping. So again, it's really important to know who your students are before you can effectively pair and group. In one sense, you might put the literacies with the literacies and the beginners with the beginners, and this serves some advantages, such as students generally feel more comfortable working with people in their own level, doing level appropriate tasks. But alternatively, if you have the right class and the right students, and the task is set up effectively, you can actually pair the high levels with the low levels. This really encourages promoting peer learning and confidence building, and promoting having a student-led class, which is more inclusive of all of the students' needs. We also have scaffolding instructions. So scaffolding is a very classic technique which involves starting with a much simpler activity which incrementally gets harder, either throughout the course of the lesson, throughout the course of the module, or throughout the course of the semester, increasing the students' abilities. So they start with something that's at their level, and then they gradually increase to something more difficult as time goes on. Alternatively, we also have jigsawing activities, which can be fantastic, again, if they're set up correctly, which involves maybe having an overall class project in which the literacies will work on a part of the project which is equivalent to their level of ability, and the beginners will work on something which is equivalent to their level of ability, and then they collaborate towards the end so they can bring their task together. I think I've saved the best one for last. The use of technology, really, really important. In contemporary society, we are all digital citizens. We're all dependent on technology in some aspect. Now, if you want to have the ability to really get involved with any voluntary, any work, or any further education opportunities, a lot of these things are happening online, especially after COVID. I mean, my online academy that I run, it's run entirely online. And some students coming from some countries with some barriers to entry that they may have faced don't have the skills available to themselves to be able to engage in that. We now have technologies such as augmented reality. One example is the Google Lens, which allows students to film or to point their camera at a document or a piece of writing and get a live translation. Or even just in the last year is artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, which is completely free to use, at least the basic version is anyway. So using these technologies in the class to help teach students skills that they can use outside of the class, but also use inside the class to collaborate on more difficult tasks. So ultimately, I'd like to just conclude by saying it's not one size fits all. It generally involves a lot of adaptability on the side of the lecturer or the tutor. They may need to try, to make mistakes, to evaluate, speak to your students, get feedback, monitor our progress against our own KPIs or impact measures, and then try again and keep evaluating it so you can keep providing a better service for your students. So these are just a few of the methods that could be employed. Thanks for listening.
Okay, that was my little presentation. As you can imagine, my heart was racing through my chest as I was delivering that presentation, and for the whole week prior to doing the job interview, I was thinking, I'm not looking forward to delivering this presentation, because I was thinking I'm going to be giving this presentation to people who have, I've blurred out the names and the faces of the people who are interviewing me, but they were all much older than me. They'd all been in formal academic education for 30 years and stuff. And then there's this guy, right? So you can imagine the nerves that I've got on me. But yeah, I tried my best to hide it. But what's your thoughts?
I think it was, you came across really confident. I think the way you handled it, probably you relied on sort of some tools like having a PowerPoint.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point, it was the focus of the kind of the panel was on the presentation itself, which sort of doesn't put you on the spotlight. Exactly. So that was a really good thing that you did, sharing that PowerPoint presentation, which, as I mentioned, can be used as a tool sort of to
take the focus away.
Exactly, right? You're not under spot, which somehow also gives you some liberty to sort of kind of speak and express yourself. What I also liked about it, if you look at the
Sorry, go ahead.
What I also liked about it, it was, if you look at your presentation, you're talking about 4-5 slides. I think really being to the point is really important. You're not trying to bore the panel with a lot of unnecessary clutter of information that is not going to add any value. What I really liked about this is that this is your opportunity. You've got a short span of time or period of time for you to hit the key points and move on, which is clearly demonstrated in this presentation. Simple, one key message at a time, give an example and move on. So I really like this kind of the way you presented it. You've got one key message, give one example, or kind of share your own experience and hit the point home and move on. I think that really helps in terms of explaining, clarifying and moving on. What I also liked about the overall presentation was the fact you sort of combined the traditional classical way of teaching, but also you were quite mindful of the fact the world has moved on and you've got IT and technology, so kind of it became a mixture of classical traditional methodologies, but also things like ChatGPT, which you reference in that presentation. I think that sort of shows an understanding of sort of teaching methodologies, traditional methodologies like scaffolding, as you mentioned, but also the fact that you can use AI and ChatGPT, which for me I think is quite impressive, given the fact that the world has changed and it keeps evolving, and so does teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So well done.
Yeah, thanks for that. It's really encouraging feedback. So I suppose just some feedback for any of the learners who need to produce their own own presentations in preparation for an interview. You'd advise definitely making a PowerPoint, because it actually takes the pressure off of you and it onto something else that can mitigate the nerves. Also, making sure that it's not too cluttered with words, not too many examples, and not too long, and also being quite concise.
Absolutely. To the point, and I think before you job interview, you've got time to go. You said like trial, try it, perhaps ask for feedback from a friend or a colleague or whoever is there, present once, twice, perhaps record yourself before you go. So rehearsing is really important. Take some time to rehearse, see how you did, record yourself, go back to the recording and see what you liked about yourself, what you did not like about it, what you can do to improve. This is all your opportunity that you can do offline before the actual day.
Sometimes students come to me and they say, I'm really bad at doing presentations, I need to improve my English. And I'll say, okay, tell me about when and where you do presentations. And they're like, oh, in my work I need to give one every week. And I said, okay, so tell me about the presentation. How many times did you rehearse it before you gave it? And they're like, oh, just when I was preparing my notes, just maybe one time. And I'm like, oh, so imagine you wanted to learn to play a song on the piano. Would you expect to be good at it if you only played it one time? Like, you actually need to practice again and again and again.
I think that's an absolutely key point, as you mentioned. One important thing which I believe a lot of people underestimate is preparing.
Yeah.
I think 50% of your game is about preparing.
Yeah.
If you're really, really well prepared, I think nothing can stop you. Nothing can stop you. And in my view, I think you can never over prepare. So the more you do it, I think the better chances you got of acing that job interview.
Yeah, nice. Okay, let's get into it. Let's see what the questions were.
Okay, thank you very much. I've got a follow-up question. If you're dealing with beginners and literacy students, what topics do you think would be the most useful to use in class?
Oh, fantastic question. So, for instance, when I was working with people, we had a plethora of refugees who had, some of them quite recently only come into the country, and a lot of them had learned some English in their own country, but they'd never lived in the UK. So simple functional language for being able to take public transport, for being able to call the emergency services and knowing the numbers, being able to talk to our doctor and explain whether it's a pain or an ache or a break or a flu or a cough or a cold, and being able to use language to order food in a restaurant, being able to check out in a grocery store or check out in a clothing store and whatnot. So I think these are some of the most important elements for beginner students, so they can have something which they can actually take away and use. I can give a longer answer. Would you like a little bit more detail of a specific example?
I think that's enough for now.
Okay. That's something I regretted asking. I wish I just gave them the extra, because I have an amazing example of a time that I'd done that. I'd actually done a job where I was working with students, teaching them this stuff, and like where the class was, it was right next to a shopping centre, and we'd learn the language, and then we'd go into the shopping centre, and then we'd use that functional language there, so the students could learn it and then use it, and it was great for their confidence. That's what I wanted to mention, but I didn't get the chance. I think I made a mistake by asking them, can I give a longer answer? I think I should have just given.
I think that would have been absolutely valuable if you just plugged in that example, because I think one of the important things is that you make the point and then you give an example or share an experience, which sort of helps get the message across in a clear way, in a concrete way. I think giving examples is a great way to get your message across. Absolutely.
Examples are so important, and sometimes when I'm going through, in fact, regularly when I'm doing job interview preparation with students, and I ask them a question like, what are your strengths, or why should we employ you for this position? They'll say stuff like, I have great communication skills, I have good team working skills, I have good this skills, I have good that skills. It's like, what does that even mean? I have good team working, like, give an example, because examples are real, but like anyone can say, I have good team working skills, or good, like, don't say you have good communication skills, show excellent communication skills throughout the interview, or or don't just say I've got good team skills. Like, give an example where you played part of a team and you made some really valuable contribution to that team and how that helped. So yeah, like what you said.
You're absolutely right. Sort of, you're not just giving cliches,
Mm-hmm.
but also backing that up with practical examples that sort of show what you were able to manage.
Yeah. Another reason I'm regretful of this is, see, the fact that I asked him, can I give a longer answer? It took the, it didn't. Oh wait, maybe. I'm just gonna press record again. Alright, okay. Alright. It took the. I felt like my power away, because before that, even though I'm super nervous, I'm trying to show them that I'm in control, and the reason I'm in control is because I'm a professional, and a professional with the adequate experience is someone who's in control and is managing the situation. And by saying, can I give a longer answer, I felt like I'd diminished that control.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
You were in the driving seat, and suddenly you say, suddenly say, okay, yeah, over to you.
Yeah, over to you. And
unexpectedly.
Yeah, and also because of that, I missed out on giving a better example that I had on reserve, and unfortunately it never got used in the interview.
Totally.
That's okay. Any other questions before I move on to the next question? Can't hear you.
Yeah.
I said, no, I think that's good. Thank you very much. I forget
Okay.
that I still put myself on mute so that you don't hear me bashing out my notes,
Great.
Rehan.
Okay.
So I promise I'm taking lots of notes so that I remember afterwards.
Oh, great.
Okay, so next bit from me, Rehan. I want to jump from the lower levels to upper intermediate or advanced.
Mm-hmm.
So even though the bulk of our demographic is low level, in each of our campi we have upper intermediate and one of them advanced, and you might find yourself covering that with Clyde. So can you talk about a successful lesson you've had at upper intermediate or advanced, and what resources you used and what made it successful?
Good question. I actually have a lot of experience teaching. So just one comment I want to make here. See, when he asked that question, because he didn't just ask for a success story, he wanted to know about resources, and he wanted to know multiple things. And so the fact that he'd stipulated those conditions like resources and success story and upper intermediate, like I didn't have something immediately ready to talk about. So the way that I responded to that is I said, that's a good question, and I took a pause, and then I started my answer. Because even though it looks like I'm very slow and in control on the outside, inside my brain there's little men running around saying, guys, find an example, look through the memory, find out something. But where I think a lot of people do wrong in that is they will say and they panic. But I think it's really important to have, like, when they hit you with a question that you don't know how to answer immediately, you should have a bit of a poker face. And even though you look calm in the outside, like, instead of all this jittery your brain will use that energy. Instead of fumbling out a response, your brain will use that energy to create or to find an answer which is relevant.
I think that's absolutely true in that case. If you look at the way you handle the question, it is a tricky question. It's a question that requires a bit of preparation. I think what you did not sort of remain silent. You wanted to buy time. One technique that you could use to buy time is to comment on the question. So there's a really good technique. If you want to buy time to sort of to gather sort of your thoughts, you comment on the question. That's a great question. In the back, kind of,
It's giving you time.
You're giving time to sort of reorganize and group your thoughts together. Great technique.
also see when people panic and they rush to answer like basically like you're probably going to be doing that for about 5 seconds, right? See, instead of spending 5 seconds like ruining your composure, you can spend 5 seconds or 6 seconds or even 10 seconds by saying, well, that's actually a really good question and I'm glad you asked me that. So to answer that directly, I would need to say that, and you see how much time that has actually bought me in the delivery of my answer. It's bought me tons of time, and it's enough time for me to at least get started and my brain's found something it can start talking about.
Absolutely. Very, very effective tool.
Yeah, because no one is ready to just start talking instantly. Everyone needs a little bit of thinking time, right? But it's how you use that thinking time.
Especially, as you said, when they become very specific about a successful case study and they kind of give you specific areas about, why successful, what resources to use. You need some time to reorganize.
So let's see what I vaguely remember what I said, but let's see. Different advanced classes. From looking at the vacancy, the position I was doing for the South Lanarkshire Council was fairly similar. It was working with literacies 2, upper intermediates and advanced. A lot of it depends on the ILP, so according to the individual learning plan you might see the students need driving theory, ICT classes. What else did I do? So I did ICT, I did driving theory, and I did business English and employability skills. And the IELTS exam, that was another common one which students needed to pass so they could proceed into further educational opportunities here in the UK. A specific story I have quite a lot of, and I'm kind of spoiled for choice. I think one which would... I'm spoiled for choice. I have so many stories. My brain is thinking, Rehan, find something. Anything. You've taught 5,000 classes. Find one story. There must be one story. So it's funny. I'm saying that I've got tons of stories. I probably do have tons of stories, but really nothing. In an interview, nothing's coming to mind.
Right. That's a really great way that you're showing. Like, you know what? I am the one who's got plenty of experience, and I can, give you many of these. But this is a really great technique. Yeah. Even you are perhaps dancing around the answer now. Yeah,
it's buying me time to think of something.
To regroup and then attack.
Yeah. Show a good level of skill is, I had this one particular student and he'd never disclosed in his ILP or his pre-class placement test that he had ADHD and dyslexia. And he actually had a really high level of English, but he wanted to go to university to study aeronautical engineering. And he wasn't progressing at the pace that I normally anticipated other students to progress at. And I ended up inquiring and speaking to him a little bit more to see how I could better support him to achieve his goals. And that's when he disclosed to me that he actually has ADHD and he has dyslexia. So I can't remember if there was an option for me to put this in my application as I applied for this position, but I have certification in handling students with ADHD, dyslexia, SEMH, ALN, unaccompanied asylum seeking children, as well as several other certificates. So I knew that the traditional learning methodology with this student compared to the other students in the class would need to be altered. So as the students progressed through, I prepared different resources for this individual student. For example, in the reading section, being able to colour code it, so it would be easier for him to interpret the information that was in front of him. Also, I contacted the IELTS exam board, and because he had these conditions, if he could provide a doctor's letter, he could actually get 30% more time allocated to him in his exam. He needed a band 6.5 to get into his course, and after the course of another couple of months of studying, he got a band 7, which is equivalent of like C1 or advanced English. So that was one particular recent story which was quite rewarding for me.
I think that's a great example. Yeah. Talking about something incredibly complex in a very simple way.
It was part true and it was part false. The parts of that answer were honest. For example, that was a true student who never disclosed to me he had dyslexia and ADHD. The false part of it was it wasn't a class of students, it was a one-on-one tuition on like Preply. What else was false? Like the colour coding things, because like you teach IELTS and I teach it. We know you can't colour code stuff in IELTS. It doesn't work like that. Like when you go to the exam, it's not going to be colour coded. The part about contacting the IELTS if you have ADHD or something and them giving you 30% more time, that's true. IELTS do that. So I'd kind of mixed things which were true and I'd mixed things which were false in order to deliver that answer.
I think, you know, the way you presented it was quite compelling. You know, especially kind of you talking about a situation that the student in a sort of slightly vulnerable situation because of whatever issue they've got, learning difficulties, challenge, and then you came up with a plan to help them, and then the plan was executed. And there was a kind of you've gone the extra mile to also contact the IELTS board as well, the team, about mentioning that the challenge that these students is facing, which shows the fact that you've done your research, you've done your homework, that if you've got a student with this particular difficulty or learning difficulty, then you've got a solution for that. It shows that, you know, knowledge and experience, which is really important.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. Also, seeing the job application, it mentioned supporting students who have like ADHD, dyslexia, and mental health conditions, and that like the tutor needs to show support to that. And because I saw that in the vacancy, I knew that somewhere in the interview I want to talk about it. Also, I mentioned in my answer, I said something like, I don't know if it was in my application, but I have certificates in ADHD, dyslexia, providing education to these people. I have all of those certifications, but it was not in my application because they didn't have a portal for being able to upload that. So it's something I wanted them to know that I have, but I wanted to fit it into one of my answers in a kind of subtle way. So in that question, I used it as an opportunity to mention something that I thought would be really important. I didn't do it in this interview, but you know what you can do? For example, like just now on my monitor, you could actually have post-it notes of the things that you want to mention. So in an educational job interview like this, like I might mention like, make sure you mention dyslexia, ADHD, depressed students, students with SEMH, mention, you know, these things and those things, just so like as I'm delivering my answers, I can know what things I've mentioned. I didn't do it for this interview, but I think it's probably a good way for people to remember, especially in some job interviews, like if you're working in IT or something and you need to talk about a lot of different complex things. It might be worth keeping some post-it notes around your monitor.
It's really helpful. Absolutely. Some people have, as you said, either post-it notes, or they would have kind of a piece of paper, kind of, you know, a notebook, or sometimes they've got a Word document just right in front of them, kind of with key points that they would like to mention whenever the opportunity arises. So that's a great one.
Yeah, like from the job listing, because the job listing is basically the answer sheet. It basically tells you we're going to give the job to someone who can do this stuff. It's basically the answers of who they're going to give the job to. So you, like if you can have that in front of you and you can make sure you're answering that throughout the interview, then they should be listening to that and thinking, yeah, this is the person that I need.
I think that's a really important point you mentioned. One of the things that I think I've also learned through the years is that you need to speak their language, not your language. They are interviewing you, so you need to speak to them in a language that they understand. When they write the job description, they are using their technical language, the language that they like and they prefer. So one of the advantages of reading the job description and understanding the job description is also try to use as much terminology from that job description so they can relate to it, because it's a language that they use, they understand.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect answer. I think that's really, really useful. Okay, let's continue into the next question.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So
Small detail, but I can't emphasize how important it is to have water beside you when you're doing an interview, because like you're going to be talking so much, your throat's going to dry out. By the quick little horror story from my part, before I got into English language teaching, I wanted to teach primary education, and I applied for 5 different universities, and one of them was in Aberdeen, which is the farthest one from Glasgow. So Glasgow to Aberdeen, I can't remember how long. I think it was more than 4 hours of travelling. Like it's maybe not as far, but almost as far as going to London. So it's quite far. I needed to book a hotel room. So it's a lot of effort to go through for a university interview, right? So I went all the way there. The interview started really early, like 8 in the morning, and it was a whole day interview until like, it was like basically there from 8 till like 4 or something.
Wow.
It was a huge interview. So like it took like, you know, a couple of days, hundreds of pounds, because you need to pay for yourself while you're out. So it was like, for me at that time, like, you know, 5-6 years ago, it was a lot of money and it was a lot of time just to go for an interview, right? And I went for this interview, and I was being interviewed by these 2 veteran teachers, and they were both quite elderly, and they were interviewing me. And throughout this day, there's many different like activities and stuff, and we had to do presentations and different activities and talking and networking and socializing. Then it came time for the interview. Now, my throat was so dry, I started profusely coughing. I couldn't say more than a few sentences without profusely coughing, and I could have saved myself if I had some water, but in that case I didn't. So yeah, I just wanted to emphasise
It's a
good touch
very
on water.
important point.
Second question comes from me, Regan, and it's all about community. So most classes are in college, but some are in community venues, and sometimes that can be really small rooms.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think you might teach differently if you were in a community centre without the same level of facilities that there are in the college?
Well, when I first started working with the South Lanarkshire Council, prior to that I'd been teaching online since the beginning of COVID, and everything I was using was very electronic and digital. But I was stationed in a hotel where all of the refugees were living, and when I came in I really didn't know what to expect. Even the recruiter said, what will I have access to? And she says, I don't really know, to be honest. We're just going to kind of go in and see what happens. So again, that's where the adaptability comes in. I asked if we could get access to like jotters and paper and pens. She said that was no problem. On the actual day, all I had was a flip chart and a pen, and this was actually all I had for quite some time, until we managed to install a TV and I could connect a laptop to it, and we could access further. I could start using my digital resources and implementing that in the class. But if it's a situation where, like, we've just got notepads, or we've at least got like a flip chart or a whiteboard and pens, it still creates a lot of opportunity for like group work, for class activities and games where students can come up and there's so many different games that we could play. Also, an important part of any of the classes, I would say, is role playing. As I mentioned earlier, particularly for the lower level learners, let's say they aren't comfortable to go into shops and restaurants, they're worried about the questions that they're going to be asked. It's really important that in class they've had an opportunity to role play these different conversations and go through it. And for role playing activities, which I find to be some of the most beneficial activities for lower level learners for building their confidence, so they've got productive skills that they can immediately implement into their real lives. Role playing is one of the best things for that, and you don't really need any digital resources to produce a good role playing. So I mean, I'm an English teacher here in 2024, but English teaching's been going on a lot longer than that. So there's a plethora of different books and resources that even with minimalistic, resources, you can still have a really good and productive class for the students.
Yeah, that's nice. Any comments on that one?
I think it was really great because they essentially, as I understood the question, they're trying to see how would you handle a situation where you don't have resources.
Mm-hmm.
By resources, I mean, like, you don't have the technology, you don't have the tools.
Mm-hmm.
Will you just pack up and move and cancel the session, or you've got other things that you can do to make it work? And I think by giving that example was incredibly, really powerful. The fact that you mentioned you're dealing with the community of asylum seekers or refugees in a place where you had absolutely no idea what to expect. And then the fact that, we've got a flip chart, a couple of markers. With that, you can be resourceful.
Mm-hmm.
With even like very basic tools, you were able to go and practice and deliver the class. I think is a testament that the person is quite resourceful. You don't need all of the resource of the world and technology to help you if you really don't have the mindset and the mentality of that. I'm going to deliver this no matter what.
I think resourcefulness is a really good characteristic to show when you're doing any of these interviews, because quite often things will not go as planned. Even in my previous job, like when COVID started, a lot of the classes went online, and some of the teachers just, they couldn't like make that adaptation. So showing that you have adaptability, and even if it's not in education, whatever the sector is, there will be times where like you don't have the resources that you typically do, and showing that you have like you're okay with things going wrong, and you don't panic when things go wrong. And when things go wrong or you don't have the normal resources, you don't give an answer like, oh, I don't know, or just you know, you don't panic, because in this, like, a job interview is it's acting, it's like doing drama. You're playing the perfect person for the role, and see, the perfect person for any position does not panic.
Totally.
The professional does not panic. The professional's got it under control, and whatever happens, they're resourceful and they have backup plans. Like James Bond, he always has a backup plan, a second way of doing things, and you want to be the James Bond of English lecturing or IT or whatever it is you're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You need to just show the panel that you are in control, no matter what. You know, you've got external factors. They shouldn't sort of, you know, impact your resourcefulness. And I think as a teacher, and you mentioned you've got plenty of experience, and by sharing these examples, you're actually showcasing how resourceful you are, and you know that you're able to sort of to command the situation, no matter how challenging that is.
Great, let's go forward.
Okay. And Rehan, just as a follow up then to that, what about if you've got multiple different levels in that same class?
I kind of struggled with this question. What if you've got multiple different levels in the same class? Because I felt like that was the exact same question as what the presentation was about. The presentation was all about, like, if you have different levels, what do you do in paired grouping, scaffolding, jigsawing, using technology for integration, setting up tasks. So I didn't feel like I had anything new to answer for this question. I don't know, we'll see how I do, but... Yeah, so I suppose, well, I mean, it depends on how different the levels are. There's been occasions where I've had like high levels and really low levels. The high levels can become like a teacher effectively for the students if it's something that they can teach, and it helps, you know, them develop their skills and their confidence and their ability to interact with other students in other ways. Differentiated instructions, sometimes, again coming back to the ILPs, sometimes the students have totally different goals, so it might be giving them something which is more specific to them and then something that's specific to everyone else. So differentiated instructions, differentiated tasks, pairing and grouping, so you can have the more advanced learners interacting or overseeing or being involved in the teaching process. And even though it's not specifically like an English activity, but they will be using English and speaking in English, and they will have like a teaching position in English, and I've found that to be really beneficial for building their confidence and giving them more of a hands-on opportunity in the class. I felt like I was just repeating what was in the presentation. I didn't feel like I had anything new to deliver on that. What do you think I could have done differently?
I think that's a really challenging one, because practically speaking, if you're in a classroom, you've got students from different levels or of different levels, it becomes a bit of a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things that, as you mentioned, is you need to assess the level of students. I think having one of the important things that I would do in this situation when I am carrying out or I'm teaching a group of students, the first thing I would do is I look who is my target audience. So I would check who my target audience is, what are the levels, and then we come to my lesson planning. I'll be making sure that there is the delivery or the resources that I cover would be designed in a way that is not too advanced for those who are, let's say, low levels, but it's not too basic for those who are sort of slightly higher level. So I think you said things like, putting people in groups where that these people of a certain level can work together, kind of putting different groups and assigning them tasks depending on their level would really help at that stage, because it is a very tricky situation. I mean, I know, we've dealt in the situation, or we've been in a situation, you've got students from different levels, and this makes it really challenging, practically speaking. I mean, theoretically on paper, it's you can do that, but when it comes to actual delivery, there are lots of hurdles, there are lots of challenges. So being realistic and honest about what you can do and the limitations that you have on that, and at some points showing vulnerability, I think really adds that you are being honest, that you don't have like a magic wand that sort of
Sure.
exactly, that's really important, that you are sort of being honest about what you can do, and sometimes that there are limitations, and that you work together and you assess the situation on spot to help mitigate any challenges.
Yeah, I think that's really important what you mentioned about being honest about what you can do, and it's not a limiting thing, because like in one sense we're not inept and we're not like amateurs who are going to panic and have no idea what to do, but like part of the professional is the professional knows about their professional boundaries and what they can and cannot do, and what is a challenging situation. And we don't want to, because insincerity is also very obvious, and if we act like we have no vulnerabilities at all, then that can come across as disingenuous. So yeah, I think addressing that, sometimes these difficult situations do occur, but as professionals we don't panic and run away from it. We assess it and we address it as the best that we can.
Absolutely.
Anyway, let's go forward.
Okay, thank you very much, and I'll hand over to.
Yeah, and you'll be glad to know this is the final question. So I'm going to read it just from the screen just so I don't miss anything out.
This is a horrible question, right? By the way, I actually respond to it really quickly, and see in hindsight, see when I watch this footage back, I don't know how I responded to it so quick, because see now when I watch this question, I don't even understand what the question means, and I'm not even sure what I said in my response. This question is so long and so convoluted, by the time I get to the end of the question, I can't even remember what the beginning of the question was.
Wow.
This is, I think, going to be a little, I think what we're going to be talking about for this one is, how do you answer a question when you don't even know what it means, or you've got no idea what the answer is? But let's see what she says here.
If you need me to repeat it, just give me a shout.
Okay. She even gives me a warning by saying, if you need me to repeat it, give me a shout, so she knows that this is a confusing question she's about to ask.
So the ESOL population in Glasgow often combines low-level skills with personal or domestic issues, resulting in barriers to efficient learning. With this in mind, how can we support our ESOL learners?
Wow.
Yeah, it was quite a question, wasn't it?
Very specific, very technical.
Really specific. Like, I didn't understand the first thing. She says that the ESOL provision combines domestic issues with something else. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't even really. I don't know how I did it on the day, but I answered it very fast. But I find it a very confusing question. But what do you recommend for people if they get hit with a question like this?
I think that's a great example of how sometimes things can get a bit difficult. Things go sort of off plan for you, or what you've planned. One of the things that I think would really help is, and I think it's perfectly legitimate to do that, and also shows confidence. The first thing you could do is ask the panel, or the person asking the question is, would you be able to rephrase that question, please?
Mm-hmm.
That's the first one.
That's a good one, yeah.
Could you please rephrase that question? So basically what you're doing, you're putting the pressure on them now, because it's now become their job to find simpler, easier words to explain as something you think is a bit complicated, or they convoluted it. And the second thing is that you can take it in different, as you break down the question, if you've got a pen and a paper, write down the question and then break it down to small bits, then divide and conquer, because it seems like very complex, very difficult, but when you've got the split of a second to just write it down and then break it down into different areas, that would probably help.
Also, see, by asking them to rephrase the question, because it's not like they're speaking in Chinese. Like, we do understand it, we just don't perfectly understand it, because it's a little bit confusing. But see, another benefit of doing that is while they're thinking about how to reword it and then rewording it, and you're also getting to hear the question a second time, although we probably understood about 70 or 80% of it the first time, it's giving us more time to load an answer. And it's about buying time, because with the amateur panics, and you can see that the amateur is panicking, and you can see that they're
Absolutely.
but the professional buys time, and he uses the same time that the amateur does, but he looks cool as he's using that time to load his answer.
Absolutely, and as you said, you're sort of shifting the pressure, stress point on from you to the person. Now it becomes their job actually to come with a language that's very specific but also clear.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, you know, burden sharing.
Yeah.
It becomes a little bit even.
So I can't remember what I said to this question. I don't even know if I answered it properly, but let's see what I said.
Well, there's so many different barriers to entry, and students don't always disclose them. For example, there could be cultural differences, there could be educational differences, being trauma informed, with the students who have faced that. Even whether they disclose it or not, I mean, generally, like in these positions, students will eventually build a relationship with your tutor and end up telling them. In community learning development, at least it's at least not as typically formal as standard academic education normally is. So it means that we don't need to move as fast, and we can actually move a lot slower, and using resources which are more befitting to the students. And again, like really knowing your students, I think is an integral part of doing that effectively. So the students that have the ability of using technology, they can use that, but the students that don't, they can start with something a lot simpler, and we can scaffold. We can start with something much simpler and incrementally make it more challenging for them as the course of the lessons goes on. But I think what's really integral to that is knowing your student, collecting as much information about your students, and and then again, like trying, making adjustments and speaking to your students. I think speaking to your students is one of the best KPIs, because you'll see on their faces and you'll see by their attendance in class if what you're doing is working. And I think as a teacher, you can never really get too comfortable doing the same thing, because the demands of your students can keep changing, and like you said, the barriers to entry can be totally different. Some of these people that have come from like Syria or Afghanistan or Ukraine, they've seen things that we can't really imagine. So I think like patience and adaptability is really integral to the process.
So that's what you call winging it. I don't know. What do you think the answer for that?
Obviously, the question is a bit challenging. It's really, as you said, it's a bit convoluted. Using kind of terms that perhaps would be outside of what you're used to. I think generally speaking, you handled it okay. I think one of the things that I could have done, and I've mentioned that earlier, is would it be possible just to elaborate a little bit more on that question, or to give me more detail about any specific areas. This would help you to sort of formulate your answer.
Yeah.
Really.
It also allows you to know like exactly what is the interviewer looking for.
Absolutely.
Like what box does the interviewer want you to tick in this question? What do they want to see from you in this? Like what, before I start talking about the wrong thing, give me an idea of what specifically do you mean, in what aspect, what barriers are we referring to?
Absolutely.
Because she used the word domestic, and then you start thinking of like, I can't remember if she said domestic barriers, and you start thinking of like relationship or household problems. I wasn't sure if she meant that, or she meant like barriers to entry could be anything, cultural or educational or language.
And could be other things like gender, for example. Is it because you're talking about specific demographics like females, because of childcare issues, for example,
Exactly.
that they're unable to
Exactly.
access? Or is it because of culture? Or is it because finance? Is it because of probably unavailability, or because of other kind of competing priorities? I think this is a sort of a loaded question, really, in that sense, that I think I would have approached it differently. Obviously, I'm talking about this kind of from the comfort of being someone who is reacting to a video, but might be sort of taking a step back, and I think there's no harm in sort of asking them, could you just rephrase that, or could you be a little bit more specific, just to help me understand the question. So I'll sort of endeavour to answer the question as to the best of my knowledge and to the best of my ability, and I think it shows actually that you're taking the initiative and you're not sort of being led by them, that you
Yeah.
also can take the initiative as
Oh,
well.
definitely. Also, by asking the question, like for example, if I had said to her, "Well, barriers to entry in domestic barriers is such a broad topic. Could you maybe be a little bit more specific as to what you?" It shows that I have a broad understanding of the topic, and she can get as specific as she needs, and I'll be able to own in on any one of those specificities and elaborate an answer, regardless of what she does. So it shows a confidence and a broader knowledge on my side. It shows a confidence to not just be reactive but proactive by taking the steering wheel and saying, "Well, where are we going here? Or you want to go here? I have experience. Let me show you what I know."
Absolutely, and in that case, you, as you said, you're shifting the focus. You're putting the ball in their court, and it's not up to them to explain it. And I think it's up to you to kind of to show what you can do to handle that question.
Mm-hmm. So that was the last question. I think the remainder of this video is just talking about the preceding steps of what happens next in the interview process or whatever. And I just they asked me if I've got any questions for them, and then I just asked them a little bit about who, when, where, why, some basic details. So I think we can just stop the review at this point. I don't think there's anything really important to review in the last 5 minutes or whatever's left of it. But yeah, do you have any kind of closing thoughts or conclusions based on that?
I think one of the highlights of this is that it shows that you are someone who's done their homework.
Mm-hmm.
When you've read the job description and then you came up with a presentation to look at what you are trying to, or the way the way it works, the way you plan, and kind of the methodologies that you follow, and kind of you also showed the fact that you are also quite aware of the fact that teaching English is changing because of the role of the AI and technologies, and that you're taking on board everything that is coming up, or the technology is presenting. But also, I think one of the important things is you were talking about the complexity of this field, because you're talking about an incredibly complex situation in terms of learners' backgrounds, in terms of their needs, their levels, and the word that you used a lot throughout the presentation or that job interview has been the word adaptability, which I think is an absolute key.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you are not adaptable, if you're not flexible, or if you are inflexible, I think it's going to be a huge struggle. So I think being aware of that, and kind of this really comes across really well in the job interview. You probably almost every single answer you plugged in the word adaptability, which is really important. But I think one of the key highlights that I think I would really comment on that job interview is the fact that you used a lot of personal experiences, which is so important. I think what a lot of people value is just not like the cliche talk, the copy and paste. It's not actually what have you actually done if you were in that situation, and being able to give real life scenarios. I think it's an absolute vital thing to ace that job interview.
Mm-hmm. That was great. That was a really good, useful feedback, and I'm hoping that the students who are watching this are going to be taking notes as you're speaking, because you obviously have a lot of experience to share, and I thank you a lot for coming down and sharing this with the students.
It's an absolute pleasure, and I think one of the key important things about any job interview, I think it's your opportunity to show the interview panel that you've got the knowledge, the experience, and that you are able to sort of again showcase. It is your playing field now. They have their questions, but you also can take control. And one of the things that I've learned, this was a few years back, about 9 years ago, I attended a media interview, and during that training, there was mainly to deal with journalists and TV presenters, etc. I used to do a lot of interviews back in the day, live on TV and radio. And one of the things that I've learned that I believe that some of the students could use in their job interviews is a technique called the ABC technique, which basically means you answer the question, you bridge, and then you take control. Talk about whatever you want, which you think is relevant to that. They have the question, but at the end of the day, it's you who've got the answer, that you can adapt it and change it. So make sure that you are ready, but also that you have control. That you are not powerless. In fact, you have a lot of power, and they're there to quite eager to hear what you're going to say.
That is amazing advice. So yeah, huge thank you to you for coming down and sharing your expertise with the students. And as I mentioned, I hope you're all taking notes, because Ahmed has shared a lot of really beneficial information, and I hope if people apply the things that you've taught today, then hopefully they're going to be able to get the job of their dreams.
Good luck.
Okay, cool.